There are some messages we want to see is planned. So we're going to put forward what we consider to be a constructive amendment that will add very specific plans. So, for example, the government says they want to get projects built. Great. We've got just the plan to do it.
Well, one man who was not there when Parliament resumed, at least not in the chamber, was Pierre Poilievre, leader of the Conservative Party. Instead, someone else rose and got a standing ovation when the member for Carleton was introduced, Liberal Bruce Fanjoy. Hi, I'm Brian Lilley, political columnist for the Toronto Sun. Joining me to talk about where things are going for the Conservatives and their leader, Lorrie Goldstein, Warren Kinsella, columnist extraordinaire with the Toronto Sun. And Lorrie, Pierre Poilievre didn't win a seat on election night, but he survived as leader, and we haven't seen knives come out yet. Now, I'll caution that it took a couple of months after the election when Andrew Scheer lost. It took from September until February after Aaron O'Toole lost. I don't see anybody organizing, but without a seat in the House of Commons, and with the potential for this to be a 3 to 4 year minority parliament, is Pierre Poilievre in trouble? Is he still secure? If he hangs on, what does he even do if things go forward as they appear they might with a 3 to 4 year minority mandate?
He's secure, as you said, right now. I think he has the party base behind him, the grassroots, and we've not seen anything from the caucus. However, the caucus hasn't voted. That's how they got rid of Scheer, the Reform Act. The caucus themselves can decide to get rid of their leader and have a leadership review. Whether they will or they won't, I really don't know. He does have his argument in favor that the Conservatives did very well in terms of if you're just looking at the results. But the negative is
nobody's ever gotten more than 8 million votes and lost a Canadian election.
Exactly. But the point is that he lost the election when he had a massive lead going in. Now, I know that the Liberals' chief strategist, I believe there's a story today where he says it wasn't the strategy about cost of living that was working. It was the leader, and that the leader was too Trump-like. I think that's silly. I don't think Pierre Poilievre is a mini Trump, but in politics, as it said, perception's reality. So, we'll have to see. The one thing that has helped him is that Carney is called an early by-election, so he could be back in the House in the fall. That surprised me. I don't think that's something Trudeau would have done. Basically say, no, I'm not going to play games.
No, but it's something every previous leader would have done when we had leaders that weren't Peter Pan man boys showing up with green running shoes at the speech from the throne. I mean, we've lowered the bar so low that we give Mark Carney credit for doing what used to be normal.
And that's well, yeah, exactly. So anyway,
he's punctual.
Can he survive in the long term? I don't know. I'll leave that to more astute observers like Warren to comment on.
Okay, well, Warren, if he does come in, and I expect he'll win the by-election. You probably would have someone like you telling him, okay, here's how we have to adjust, because it's a very different leader. Don't mean to invoke the name of Corey Teneycke, who many of our viewers are very angry at, but I remember talking to Teneycke before Trudeau stepped down, and he said the concern with a lot of Conservatives was Trudeau would step down and someone like Melanie Joly would go in. He said, you can't hit Trudeau hard enough, but you could never hit Melanie Joly as hard as you hit Justin Trudeau. Well, it's Mark Carney now. The election's over. You've got to take a different tack. So what would you tell them in terms of how to pivot once he does get back in?
Well, firstly, he is going to get back in because a fence post painted blue could win that seat in Alberta. He's going to get 110% of the vote. But that is in the issue. And, I have been, as you guys keep pointing out, I'm old and I've been in this game a long time. My view, here, I'll tell you a war story. When I was heading out to BC to help run Gord Campbell's campaign, it was his first campaign in British Columbia. And before I got there, they decided to do some ads, his team of him in a lumberjack shirt and looking, more Main Street and less Howe Street being the equivalent of Bay Street in Vancouver. And it blew up in their face, and that he was inauthentic and it wasn't him and it was manipulative and all that sort of thing. My rule of thumb, and I told them this when I got out there, by the time you're about 40, boys and girls, how you are in politics is how you are, right? And so how Poilievre is, and Andrew Bevan has said this on CTV with Vasikopoulos, as Lorrie pointed out, and it was there in the data. The main reason they lost was not because of policy. The main reason they lost was because of their leader. Their leader was considered dislikable by Canadian women. Women don't like Pierre Poilievre. What is going to change between now and the next election in 1 year or 2 years or 4 years? Nothing. He's going to be the same guy. And like this comparison to Trump, I agree with Corey on one thing. I know people make comparisons of Poilievre to Trump. I actually think Trump is more likable than Poilievre because he makes jokes and he engages with the media, and he has an ability to make you laugh sometimes about some of the crazy things he says. Poilievre doesn't. He's very stern, he's very severe, he's clipped. When he talks to you on TV or otherwise, you feel like he's talking down to you. So the question I'd ask the conservative strategists who decided, let's keep the same bet and see if we get a different outcome, is what do you think is going to change with this guy between now and the next election? Nothing's going to change. He may turn down the volume, maybe he'll change his shirt, but it's going to be the same person.
You made comments on X. You were posting the photos of Justin Trudeau and Stephen Harper laughing. And someone said, I've heard he was, has a quick wit from people that know him. People that know Stephen Harper know that he has a quick wit. And I've been on the receiving end of some scathing jokes from the former prime minister, when meeting him ahead of interviews and such. The guy can be funny, but he never showed it. And that's what you pointed out. He never showed it. Pierre Poilievre, that I know, is very different than the guy you see on TV. He goes in front of a camera and he does become wooden. The guy that I know when the camera's not on is funny and likable, but he's not showing that.
Brother, do you know how many campaigns I've been on, losing campaigns, where somebody in the war room says to me, if only voters knew him like we know him. You could almost make that an epitaph on losing campaigns.
Can you turn that around? And
I don't think so.
By being actually authentic, being who you are, as opposed to being a character that you think you need to play as a politician. I mean, the Doug Ford that people see on camera is the Doug Ford you see off camera. He's the same guy all the time. He doesn't know how to be anybody else.
Well, and same thing with Chrétien, who, by the way, I can tell both of you is recovering well from his heart surgery this week. He gave those of us who love him a bit of a scare, but he's at home resting now. And he's an excellent example of what you're talking about, is be yourself, right? Alan Gregg, who advised Brian Mulroney, had an excellent point one time. He said, I can't tell you the number of politicians, you know them in person, they're engaging, they're funny, they're fun, they're interesting, and then they get up in front of a microphone at the podium and they turn into a robot, right?
That is Michael Ignatieff for you.
And that's Pierre Poilievre, I think, for the country.
Lorrie, you mentioned the grassroots. They are solidly behind Pierre, and there are some who feel that the election was stolen. Not saying some feel it was stolen off them by manipulation at the ballot box, but like they had their hopes and dreams stolen, is what I mean for most. They would be very angry, I think, and very unforgiving if the caucus turned around and tried to get rid of Poilievre. So if Warren is correct and he's still going to be the problem, barring a Mark Carney collapse because, it's a horrible government and everyone runs away from the Liberals again, what do they do? Do they change the leader and anger the grassroots? Do they stick with them and hope for a better result?
Well, look what the Liberals did when they were out of power. The one thing we've got this thing now where a leader gets one chance to win and they're done.
Mm-hmm.
That had happened in Ontario. There never would have been a Mike Harris. And so to me, what did the Liberals do?
Or Dalton McGuinty, who Warren helped
they
get
went through.
elected.
They went through Stefan Dion federally. They went through Michael Ignatieff, and then they struck lightning with Justin Trudeau. The Liberals have gone through, the Conservatives federally have gone through 2 leaders as well. And so this would be, I'm not sure that just changing the leader one and done is working for anybody. And there is an argument that, I know that the Liberal strategist makes an argument that it wasn't the strategy, it was the leader. But let's remember that a couple of months ago, it was a given that Poilievre was going to win. And then a whole bunch of things happened, were unexpected. So the point being, regardless of his personality, I think it's a reasonable argument that given the circumstances that happened and the particular issues, they played right into the Liberals' hands. They lucked out, and then they used their luck to good advantage. So the only thing I would weigh against, and I hear Warren about, the guy's not going to change, but one and done.
Circumstances can change. I've argued that had there been one more week in the election, Poilievre may have won it because the momentum was heading in his direction.
Let's remember, in the early weeks of the election, the Liberals were up 8 points, 9 points, 12 points. And then by the time it was over, it was 3. Now, having said that, a win is a win is a win.
Yeah, and guys, this sounds like a lot of woulda, coulda, shoulda.
Yeah.
The bottom line is he lost a 30-point lead, nearly 30-point lead.
It was never 30 points.
Oh, sorry, it was 26 points. Okay, big difference. Number one. And number two, he lost his own seat, definitively lost his own seat. He got clobbered. The guy is a loser. Like, he's smart, he's capable, he's a great parliamentarian. So what? That's what they said about Tom Mulcair, and now he's on the pundit circuit with the rest of us. So, like, I know liberals are delighted. Liberals are delighted. Pierre Poilievre's sticking around.
What do? Do they anger the base and try and find someone else?
Well, there's lots of capable people in the party. They've got, as you guys pointed out, they've got many more MPs in the party. And it's just, Pierre had his shot and he blew it. And it's, I agree with what Lorrie is saying. The one and done thing, I'm not fond of it because, Chrétien lost the leadership to John Turner. Dalton McGuinty.
Dalton looked like a complete loser after the 97-98 campaign.
That was then. This is now, and if you blow a big lead, it counts on your final report card. And I just don't know how Pierre Poilievre erases that black mark.
All right, let's put this to the audience, see what they have to say. Drop a comment down below, share this on social media, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel.